Imagine witnessing a familiar scene, a political leader confidently announcing policies destined for failure, your relative enthusiastically spreading debunked theories online, or a colleague dispensing financial advice that would devastate anyone naive enough to follow it. These individuals share a common trait that makes them more perilous than any scheming villain. They possess disastrously flawed reasoning while maintaining unwavering certainty in their correctness. This represents one of civilization's most overlooked dangers. Cornell University research reveals that individuals with limited cognitive abilities in particular areas frequently exhibit extraordinary confidence in their erroneous convictions, the infamous Dunning-Kruger effect. The genuine peril emerges because these people don't merely damage themselves, they inadvertently undermine entire frameworks while genuinely believing they're providing assistance. The neurological mechanisms behind this phenomenon prove particularly fascinating. When people encounter information that aligns with their existing beliefs, their brains release dopamine, the same neurotransmitter associated with pleasure and addiction. This biochemical reward system creates a powerful feedback loop where sharing information that feels true generates genuine satisfaction, regardless of its actual accuracy. The brain essentially treats confirmation of existing beliefs as a reward, making people more likely to seek out and share information that reinforces their worldview. What makes this especially dangerous is how it interacts with cognitive biases. People with limited analytical skills become increasingly susceptible to motivated reasoning, the tendency to process information in ways that support desired conclusions rather than accurate ones. They develop what researchers call cognitive armor, where contradictory evidence actually strengthens their original beliefs rather than challenging them. This occurs because the brain interprets challenges to core beliefs as threats, activating defensive mechanisms that prioritize psychological comfort over truth-seeking. The Salem witch trials demonstrate this psychological dynamic in historical context. Community members genuinely believed they were protecting their neighbors from supernatural threats while systematically destroying their own social fabric. Each execution seemed to validate their fears, creating a self-reinforcing cycle of destruction driven entirely by good intentions. The participants weren't malicious. They were trapped in a psychological framework that made destructive actions feel virtuous and necessary. Modern examples abound in our daily lives. Consider parents who refuse vaccines for their children, fearing debunked connections to autism. They're not attempting to cause harm, they're genuinely terrified and believe they're protecting their families. However, their decisions contribute to disease outbreaks that harm their own children and others. They gain nothing from this choice while creating measurable damage for everyone involved, including themselves. This pattern of well-intentioned self-destruction appears across countless domains, from financial decisions to health choices to political preferences. Our interconnected era has exponentially expanded the influence of defective judgment. Social media platforms prioritize engagement over accuracy, ensuring that the most assertive, emotionally provocative material gains maximum exposure regardless of its veracity. MIT's revolutionary 2018 research examining Twitter's information dynamics uncovered a disturbing reality: misinformation propagated 6 times more rapidly than factual content. Most significantly, authentic users, not automated accounts, drive this sharing, genuinely convinced they're disseminating vital information. This digital amplification creates unprecedented challenges for maintaining rational discourse. Traditional gatekeepers, editors, fact-checkers, institutional authorities have been bypassed by systems that reward emotional engagement over accuracy. The algorithms that govern information flow on major platforms are designed to maximize user attention and interaction, not to promote truth or beneficial outcomes. This creates a perverse incentive structure where the most confident, emotionally charged, and often incorrect information receives the widest distribution. The Reuters Institute's comprehensive analysis across 40 countries during the COVID-19 pandemic revealed that most health misinformation wasn't spread by malicious actors or coordinated disinformation campaigns. Instead, it was shared by ordinary people who genuinely believed they were helping their communities by sharing important information. These weren't calculated attempts to deceive, they were organic expressions of poor judgment amplified by systems built for engagement rather than truth. The psychological mechanisms that make people vulnerable to misinformation online are remarkably consistent. When individuals encounter information that confirms their existing beliefs or fears, they experience what researchers call confirmation satisfaction, a neurochemical reward that makes sharing feel good regardless of accuracy. This is particularly powerful when combined with social validation. Seeing friends and family share similar content creates a sense of community consensus that feels more reliable than expert opinion. Facebook's internal research, revealed through congressional testimony and leaked documents, demonstrated that the platform's own algorithms promoted divisive content because it generated higher engagement rates. Content that made people angry, fearful, or outraged was more likely to be shared, commented on, and interacted with, making it more visible in news feeds. This created a systematic bias toward information that triggered strong emotional responses rather than careful consideration. The speed of information transmission compounds these problems. In the pre-digital era, harmful ideas spread slowly enough that correction mechanisms, fact-checking, expert analysis, institutional response, could often intervene before widespread damage occurred. Now, false information can reach millions of people within hours, often before accurate information is even available. By the time corrections are issued, the original misinformation has often been internalized and integrated into people's belief systems. This creates what researchers call truth decay, a phenomenon where the distinction between fact and opinion becomes increasingly blurred in public discourse. When every opinion can find an audience and every belief can find supporting evidence online, the shared epistemic foundation necessary for democratic decision-making begins to erode. People retreat into information bubbles where their existing beliefs are constantly reinforced while contrary evidence is systematically filtered out. Italian economist Carlo Cipolla's groundbreaking analysis of decision-making processes offers essential understanding of behavioral patterns that threaten institutional stability. His investigation determined that chronically poor decision-makers constitute society's most hazardous demographic, surpassing criminals and corrupt officials, because their actions remain unpredictable while frequently masquerading as virtuous behavior. Unlike self-serving actors whose motivations remain transparent and therefore manageable, those exhibiting systematic poor judgment generate mutually destructive outcomes while maintaining helpful intentions. The 1986 Chernobyl catastrophe exemplifies this dynamic perfectly. The disaster's root cause wasn't malicious sabotage. Experienced technicians conducted what they considered routine safety procedures, management pursued standard productivity objectives, and administrators postponed evacuations to prevent public alarm. Each participant genuinely believed their actions were appropriate, precisely what rendered the situation so devastating. The engineers running the safety test had years of experience and technical training, yet their confidence in their understanding led them to disable safety systems they deemed unnecessary. Acknowledging this human reality demands fundamental restructuring of institutional design and decision-making processes. Rather than expecting enhanced human reasoning, we must create frameworks that limit destructive decisions while amplifying beneficial judgment. The most successful systems operate on the assumption that even intelligent, well-intentioned people will make systematic errors under certain conditions. Aviation industry protocols provide an excellent model for this approach. Commercial aviation has achieved remarkable safety records not by expecting pilots to be perfect, but by designing systems that compensate for human limitations. Checklists prevent seasoned pilots from committing basic yet catastrophic errors, even when they've performed the same procedures thousands of times. Multiple redundant systems ensure that single points of failure don't compromise overall safety. Communication protocols require explicit confirmation and standardized language to prevent misunderstandings. These systems acknowledge that human memory is unreliable under stress and that expertise doesn't eliminate the possibility of error. Wikipedia's editorial framework demonstrates how to harness collective intelligence while protecting against individual biases. The platform's source verification requirements maintain content quality despite editor prejudices. The requirement for reliable, published sources creates a quality control mechanism that operates independently of individual editor knowledge or motivation. The transparent editing process allows errors to be identified and corrected by the community, while the version history system provides accountability and allows rollback of harmful changes. Democratic systems incorporate numerous safeguards designed to prevent individual mistakes from causing systemic collapse. Separation of powers ensures that no single institution can make irreversible decisions without oversight. Term limits prevent the accumulation of power that might insulate leaders from the consequences of their decisions. Judicial review provides a mechanism for correcting legislative and executive overreach. These systems don't assume perfect wisdom from any participant. Instead, they create checks and balances that allow beneficial decisions to be implemented while constraining harmful ones. Financial markets, despite their imperfections, include numerous mechanisms designed to limit the damage from poor individual decisions. Bankruptcy laws prevent single bad decisions from permanently destroying economic actors. Consumer protection regulations limit predatory practices that exploit cognitive vulnerabilities. Diversification requirements for investment institutions prevent concentration of risk that could create systemic failures. These systems recognize that people will make poor financial decisions and attempt to contain the spillover effects. Perhaps the most crucial revelation involves embracing intellectual modesty. We all demonstrate flawed reasoning more frequently than comfortable to acknowledge. The people who'll successfully navigate tomorrow's challenges won't expect perfect human rationality, but will comprehend human constraints and design compassionate, intelligent solutions around them. This requires what researchers call cognitive humility, the recognition that our own reasoning is subject to the same limitations and biases that affect everyone else. Recognizing our collective susceptibility to error shouldn't inspire pessimism, it provides the groundwork for developing more resilient, empathetic institutions capable of leveraging our shared wisdom while defending against both individual and collective reasoning failures. The goal isn't to create hierarchies based on intelligence or to dismiss democratic principles, but to acknowledge human limitations while designing systems that maximize human flourishing despite those limitations. When we accept that poor judgment is a persistent feature of human societies, we can work to create institutions that harness our collective intelligence while protecting against our individual and collective failures of reasoning.